Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. It's 1:45. We'll reconvene our hearing. We were in the process of hearing case number 24594, the application of Targa Midstream Services for authorization to inject in Lee County, New Mexico. We had finished with did we do rebuttal, cross-exam? Where did we finish off? With the doctor's questionings. Okay, awesome. Commissioner Bloom, did you have any questions for our witness?
I do not. Dr. Mpoma asked all my questions and more, so thank you.
Awesome. Ms. Hardy, we'll turn it back to you.
Yes, thank you. So, Mr. Kasira, before we took our break, Dr. Mpoma asked you several questions, and I wanted to go through those so you can provide the answers. Okay. I believe the first question was regarding the number of wells that were used in the model.
Okay, so for the geological model, we use three existing wells in there. And also what we did, we used more than the three existing wells that went deep as our reservoir and even deeper. And we use additional wells that are shallower. We tied them to those wells, and we tied them also, we convert them with the seismic.
Thank you. And then I know there was a question about whether the faults were modeled as open or closed and the reason. And can you answer that question?
Yes, the faults, as I mentioned earlier, the faults were modeled open because our reasoning for that is to go with the worst case scenario. And we could have modeled closed, but we thought to go with the open model, open faults.
Thank you. And Dr. Mpoma had some questions about whether the brine could reach the faults. And can you provide the information he had requested?
Yes. So if you look at the pressure front close to the fault, it's about 150 to 250 psi. For the brine to migrate up, you need much more higher pressure for the brine to migrate up there. We had calculated the critical pressure, and we found out that is not going to be any danger of the brine migrating up into the drinking water.
Thank you. And then I believe there was a question on slide 25. Let's get there. Yep, I was there. Regarding the porosity and whether the model was homogeneous or heterogeneous.
Yes.
Can you provide that information, please?
Yes. So I apologize. I was under the impression we inverted here. We did not invert. We used 5 wells in this area and we cricked those wells to come up with the heterogeneous porosity in the area, and we ground truth it. Of course, we compared it to the seismic.
I believe those were all the questions I intended to ask you on redirect, but I don't know if I wanted to make sure we answered Dr. Mpoma's questions.
Yeah, but so with regards to the heterogeneity of the model, if you look at so let's look at slide number 31. Slide number 31. And I think this one, NMOCD will take care of it because you will definitely do the step rate test, and that will infer whether you get a 26 million or not. When I look at this model, I mean, I'll go up 31. So if you look at this model, the well is right within the middle, and then your plume is more or less equally distributed. So this is more like close to a homogeneous model. So if you use this model to make a strong case that you can put in 26 million standard cubic feet of gas per day, I think that is why the step rate test is there. So I cannot argue that much, because the step rate test is still going to help. I'm always concerned about the 26 million request, is really on the higher side. And I feel like the model, there's no way the model is going to support that because you have only 3 wells or 5 wells populating through the entire boundaries of the model. That is a bit concerning. But I think still NMOCD will take care of that. So it's not a big problem. Now, with regards to the faults, I'm surprised that you say that the open fault is the worst case scenario. If you put a closed fault, you will see that the direction of the flow is going to be impeded. Like you're going to build up pressure. If you have open, you are more or less releasing the pressure. So you are not building the pressure. So your open fault scenario is not really the worst case scenario, especially if you want to see where the plume is going, or let's say how much pressure you are building up. So it can work both ways. So definitely during your 5-year period, definitely you might want to consider including that scenario as well.
We will, definitely. Thank you.
And thank you for taking time to go back and then get some clarification. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, we have nothing else.
Awesome.
I don't have any further questions for
Oh.
Mr. Alcasi.
Okay. Can we excuse this witness?
Yeah.
You are
Sir.
excused. Now you can.
I don't want to stand up.
Yeah, now you can do it. Thank you, sir. Ms. Hardy.
Thank you. Targa's next witness is Mr. Paul Ragsdale.
Okay. Mr. Ragsdale, will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Order.
Mr. Ragsdale, can you please state your full name for the record?
Luther Paul Ragsdale.
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by Targa Midstream as an engineering consultant.
And what do you do as an engineering consultant?
I help them with the design and construction and operation of the acid gas wells.
Have you previously testified at a commission hearing?
Yes.
Can you please briefly summarize your educational and professional background?
I graduated from New Mexico State in 1977, went to work for Halliburton in 1977 in Hobbs, New Mexico. Worked for Halliburton for about 5 years. Then I've worked for family-owned independent oil companies. I ended up with Yates Petroleum in 1995 and worked for 1990, worked for them for about 21 years, retired, and in the last five or 6 years, I've done consulting.
Based on Mr. Ragsdale's education and professional experience, I request that he be qualified as an expert in drilling and completion engineering.
Any objections?
No objection.
He has been entered.
Thank you. Mr. Ragsdale, let's look at slide 39 of the presentation. Can you please explain what's shown there?
This is the C-102 that was attached to the C-108 that we submitted. On the left-hand side, it shows the name of the well, the fact that we're AGI well, a Devonian, and the legal location 132432. The right-hand side is the surveyor's plat.
And can you please explain the wellbore schematic that's shown on page 40?
So this is the wellbore schematic that we've done, and this is a very deep well. And so we kind of split the schematic in half. This actually shows the surface casing, the intermediate casing, and the second intermediate that we would run.
And then what's shown on slide
So-
41?
So this is the bottom half. And in it, you can see the production casing, which is the 7-inch casing that will be set in the top of the Devonian, the open hole that we will drill the Devonian hole from 17,299 to 18,699. And then the tubing that would be run into the well, the packer would be set at 17,250. One thing I wanted to add, it's 3.5-inch G3, which is a nickel alloy, a special alloy. It's very non-corrosive, very resistant to H2S and CO2. And in it, we put packer fluid, diesel plus additives, those additives are biocides and corrosion inhibitors that we run. And that's just in case you have a leak. If you have water behind it, it would corrode. You can see the little green dashed line on there. That's a fiber optic line that is going to be run behind the 7-inch, provided that our hole conditions permit that we can do that. We don't show, and we will have a fiber optic DTS line attached to the 3.5-inch tubing that will be attached to the packer. And I'll go into that further.
What's shown on slide 22?
So this is our casing and our tubing design. Shows you that the conductor will set 100 foot of 28-inch conductor, basically just to get the rig on. And then we'll set 1,208 feet of 20-inch, and that's set it into the top of the rustler that protects your water zone. Then 5,034 feet of 13 3/8, that's set to the top of the Delaware through the Lamar line. And I think there was a question as to the DMG well, the second DMG well, that's the top of the DMG. And so, you probably have a couple thousand feet, maybe 5,000 to 7,000 foot for your DMG. The intermediate is a 9 5/8, set to 12,250. That's to the top of the Wolf Camp. And then you'd set 7-inch down at 17,299 feet.
And what's shown on slide 43?
These are the casing specs for each one of those casing. And you can see under the long string has both P110 and it's going to have some special alloy pipe in it too. It also shows the connections that we have. The tubing, it shows 9.2 VAM top G3.
And what is the cement design?
And the cement design, I think the main thing is that all of these strings will be circulated. Cement will be circulated to the surface. You can see in the 9 5/8 intermediate number 2, that's 12,250. It lists 3 stages of cement, and in that we'll run stage 2 would be some corrosive a very corrosion resistant cement, resistant to H2S. And then down to that'll be placed across the DMG. So it would protect it from future injection, protect our pipe. And then the production string, we're going to use a well-lock resin cement as our shoe. And then, we'll run a class H cement. I think there was a question about high temperatures. And does that high temperature cause cement degradation? This is a class H cement. I talked to Halliburton, that's who's going to do our cement. They'll use some high temperature additives and some retarders so you can get the cement in place. We did look and we found one log. We looked at lunch and we found one log that had close to the well, had 220 degrees on the log as bottom hole temperature. And then we found another one that was over that, looks like 230 or 240, something like that.
What's shown on slide 45?
So this is our drilling fluid design, AKA this is the mud. And so you'll drill your 20-inch with fresh water and get it set. The 17.5-inch hole, you're going to drill through the salt section and land in the top of the Delaware Mountain Group. And so you'll use brine. It'll be saturated brine in there. We'll then drill down to the Wolf Camp using a cut brine system of about 9 pounds, pretty viscous. We shouldn't have a lot of problems, but I think there was some questions about maybe lost circulations because of offset producing wells. There are some producing wells in the Bone Springs out there. So we'll be prepared for that. Then after we set pipe into the Wolf Camp, from the Wolf Camp to the top of the Devonian, you're going to drill the Wolf Camp, and there are Wolf Camp producing wells out there. They're high pressure gas. And so we'll drill with this oil-based mud. We plan to use, actually from the time we drill out from below the Delaware all the way to TD, we'll have a managed pressure drilling system out there. And so, if we take kicks, we can hold pressure and hold back pressure and try to hold that gas back. And then once we get pipe set into the top of the Devonian, we basically will drill the open hole in the Devonian with fresh water and some viscosity there. But a lot of times when you drill the Devonian, you'll lose circulation in there, which is what you're looking for in an injection well.
And then what about logging and testing, which is discussed on slide 46?
So we've discussed this with OCD. We're going to try to find a bond log for the 20-inch. Sometimes it's hard to find it. So I listed a 4-arm caliper log. I don't plan on any case tool logs, but we might, if we can find the bond log, we will get one. They're hard to find. Then the intermediate is your neutron density and resistivity logs, a gamma ray and a 4-arm caliper, case tool, cement bond logs, gamma ray, the intermediate, pretty much the same suite of logs. Then when you get down in the production casing, pretty much the same suite of logs, but we also plan on running an FMI, which is a formation micro imager log and a sonic log. And so a big part of that is to look at our seal zones, the Woodford and the zones above that, and just look where you're looking for fracturing. And then, of course, when we go to the open hole, we're going to run the gamma ray, a caliper, an FMI, a sonic, a porosity log, a density log, resistivity log. We'll run lots of logs in the open hole.
Okay, and then can you describe the additional coring and monitoring, which is
Yes.
discussed on 40?
The coring, we plan to do, to core the Woodford and take an 80-foot section of core on the Woodford. And then once we get into the open hole, I think George had a slide that showed that there's 3 porosity zones that we anticipate, and we'll try to take a core of each one of those porosity zones in the Devonian and I think in the Fusselman. The fiber optics, the fiber optic will be attached behind the 7-inch casing to enable monitoring of temperature and the acoustics in the formation. Again, this is dependent upon hole conditions. That's it's 8.5-inch hole, 7-inch, and running that fiber. If we're having issues, we may not be able to run that, but we plan on it. And that really helps us to monitor or to model the plume if we can do that. Then we'll have a fiber optic line attached to the 3.5-inch tubing and to the 7-inch packer at like 17,250 feet. That fiber optic line gives us both the bottom hole temperature and pressure of the injection zone. It gives you the bottom hole temperature and pressure of the casing annulus. So it's a great way to monitor for leaks. You also get real-time data for pressure and temperature. And so if your temperature starts to change, if you start seeing, and we monitor this daily, if your temperature starts to change, it could tell you that you have a leak. As far as daily monitoring, we inspect those wellheads daily. Somebody goes by and checks them. We have the pressures in our control room where the control people can see them and have alarms. We have wellhead safety valves to shut the pressure down. Shut the well down if we get overpressured. And then we, do a visual inspection daily also. And
Mr. Ragsdale, will the coring be used to confirm porosity in the
Yes.
cap rock and the
Yes.
underlying rock as well?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Or lack of porosity.
Yes, yes, hopefully, yeah. And I believe earlier, Mr. Elkasey referred a question to you on temperature.
I think that was about the cement. And so that it is, it's very high temperatures in there down at the bottom. And so, when we log, we'll get an accurate temperature reading, and then we will get with our cementers, probably Halliburton, and we will, come up with our cement blend. In this case, I have a Halliburton recommendation, and they have a trademark cement that they call Neosim that has proprietary additives to it, but it says temperature retarders and things like that. And then you'll pump test it. And so you'll pump test this, and you'll get your pump times, and then you get compressive strengths on them too.
And Mr. Regsel, let me just go back for a minute to the slide that was presented earlier on the wells in and around the proposed AGI well. Let's see if I can find that slide. And there were questions about a well located within here it is, within the half-mile area of review. Do you recall those?
Yes. So
questions?
that well, you can see on your table, it's called the McCloy Central. That's really not a well. That well was, that APD was filed, and then expired. And so there really is not a well there.
Okay.
Okay.
Here. Okay, and were the slides that you discussed prepared by you or under your direct supervision?
Yes.
Okay. And can you please summarize your conclusions and recommendations?
Well, this Siluro-Devonian formation can receive the acid gas, the tag. We can contain it safely using good well design and good cementing properties and a good tubing and packer. And we can keep this below the maximum surface injection pressure.
And in your opinion, will the well be designed to ensure the safe injection of tag?
Yes.
And is this well design appropriate for the injection of tag at this location in this reservoir?
Yes, it is.
And in your opinion, will the proposed well prevent waste, protect correlative rights?
Yes, it will.
And is it correct that the proposed well will not harm public health or the environment?
That's correct.
Thank you. Those are all of my questions for Mr. Ragsdale.
Hi, we have a few questions.
Great.
You noted that your method of determination of the cement top is a visual inspection. OCD would like you to couple it with CBL to determine cement top except for surface casing, which OCD agreed that visual inspection of the cement top and cement report that includes density is acceptable. Did Targa agree with OCD to couple visual inspection with cement bond log?
Yes.
Okay. What is your expected temperature range between surface and 12,250 feet of depth?
Oh, well, let's start at the surface. Your ambient temperature, but usually it's 70 degrees is your surface temperature. And then we think the static bottom hole temperature in this well will be approximately 225 degrees. And it's a gradient from there down. For years, I've always used 1 degree per 100 feet. So you're at 180 stages, that'd be 180 degrees plus 50 or 60 degrees, 230, 220.
Do you agree that Class C cement may not be suitable if the temperature is greater than 170 degrees Fahrenheit?
That is correct. Class H is recommended.
What convinced you to apply a 0.3 Poisson ratio? Sorry.
I didn't do that, so I'll have to look at that and see. I'm not sure where that was at. That's in the permit application. Yeah, and that's, I'm sorry.
1 moment. Would you prefer to have a break to check on that?
Sure.
Okay.
We can proceed.
We can proceed with questions, but we'll go back to that. Is that
Okay.
okay? Okay. One moment, please. Our remaining questions depend on the answer to the Poisson's ratio, so we don't have any more questions at this time.
Okay. Commissioners, Dr. Mpoma?
Yeah, definitely. I do have few. So certainly the Poisson ratio, the modelers has to be able to respond to that. I mean, they would have to be able to respond to that. Those who did the modeling, they should be able to respond to that.
Thank you.
And I think the range that was given, 0.3, normally is a typical, like, it can be Sunstone probably 0.25, so it is still in a typical range. Mr. Raster, why open hole in the production zone?
So we found, I've drilled several Devonian disposal wells, SWDs, and it's, we found that if you leave the hole open rather than sticking casing down into it, first off, you would end up running a liner into it, and liner tops are notorious for leaking. But the other is that when you cement that liner across that porous Devonian formation, you may damage the formation. And so by filling it full of cement, and then you have to perforate it, then you have to acidize it. And so when we drill open hole, if you can get to your depth, you've left your hole, basically undamaged. Then you can increase your injection rate, I think.
Interesting. So do you believe that a typical class 2 well drilled in the Permian, and now you see a lot of class 6 wells coming into play as well? So do you believe that within the Permian, at least within that depth that we're dealing with, open hole will still surface for a class 6?
Oh, I don't know about classic.
Well, so that is where my question is. So, and that would be more or less for the regulator to respond to in terms of if we have open holes for class 2 wells, and then we're going to cite class 6 wells, which probably will be forced to put in more like a casing.
A liner. Yep.
Yeah, in the production zone, then what are we really preventing? Because we do have some wells that are already open hole, and they are going to say class 6 has to come up with all the strict rules. So I think that is something that NMOCD might have to start thinking about, especially if we go into primacy.
Commissioner Mpoma, I just at a very high level, the OCD will be looking very closely at that. We do understand that there are some similarities between class 2 and class 6. It's the division's position that this is a class 2 well. And so those questions will be answered in detail over a multi-year project that to answer that. So none of our witnesses or staff or myself are able to answer that question today, but there's a lot of depends, and it's something we'll be looking at.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So with regards to the corrosion resistance casing, I do see P110 and
In the 7-inch.
yeah, in the 7-inch.
So I think it's listed as P110 and chromium 13.
So be specific on that one.
So chromium 13 is a corrosion resistant alloy also, but I think we've decided to run the G3 because it's better. Is in there. I think when this was written, we couldn't find the G3.
So you believe that the G3 will be even higher than that of the
It will
chrome?
be run on the bottom of the. Can you go to that table, Dana? It's the tubing and casing.
Yeah, so page 42, slide 42.
Yeah, so it's the, one more.
This one?
One more. Let's see. No,
Yeah.
That's
We have
it.
two- Okay.
So I do see in the table for sure, but in some part of your presentation, I do see the P110 Chrome
Chrome 30.
in there. So is it your testimony that Targa is going to use a higher level?
We are going to use the G3.
But the G3, that is a tubing, right?
But you can buy the casing,
It could,
the 7-inch casing also.
well, but right here you are not showing that. So how would we how would we hold Targa to that? Because it's not like if you look at the long string, yeah, the 7-inch, you do have chrome casing and then P110. And even now you're saying that probably you're going to use G3 corresponding casing, which is not shown here.
No, it's not. It is better. It's an upgrade from the chrome. There'll be 300 foot of corrosion resistant pipe on the bottom of the bottom 300 foot from 17,299 to what would that be? 16,799 of chrome resistant. I mean, of corrosion resistant alloy pipe for your shoe joint.
So then would you amend your application to make sure that, we are holding Targa to that?
I think it could be included in the commission's
Okay.
order.
Okay.
And it may be in the C108 itself. I haven't been able to confirm that because I don't know where it would be located. But the
Okay.
C108 is actually the application that we submitted.
Okay. Okay, good. So you talked a little bit about the plans that you'll do to more or less control the loss circulation and even being able to control the well. But is there a written plan? Because I think this is something that NMOCD would have to look at it carefully, because recently there was one well that was drilled where you have gas coming up and then the well needed to be shut down, pivot to some location. So production wells close by to, let's say, a target injection well, there has to be a plan as to how you're going to deal with the production zones, the Woodford. You have to have a plan, to be able to deal with that. Or I don't know, from your description, it sounds to me that you're going to use experience, but is there a written plan?
There will be.
There will be.
Yes, sir. And we can submit that to you.
I think that's
we have
very
a
important.
drilling. We'll have a drilling plan and a fluids design plan on both. It'll be very thorough,
Very detailed.
and we'd be glad to share that with you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So NMOCD, the regulator asks you about whether you're going to use a cement bond logs to identify the top of the cement. So is that your testimony that it's strictly cement bond log, or you intend to also use the fiber optic, which can also do the same?
No, just cement bond log.
Just the cement bond log?
Yes.
Okay. You said the fiber optic to measure pressure?
Mm-hmm. It's attached.
Okay.
So it's attached to a gauge that is in the inside through the packer, so it can sense what the pressure is in the tubing, and a gauge on the outside, and it transmits that data to it through the fiber optic.
Okay. So why the oil-based mud?
Or oil-based mud.
So
To
why?
keep your shales from getting wet and sloughing. There's lots of shales below the Wolfcamp, in the Strawn and the Atoka and in the Morrow and the Woodford. And so if you can use oil-based muds, then you keep those shales from sloughing. It actually increases your penetration rate too.
So has there been like a normally mud that is being used when drilling through those zones?
Most of the horizontal wells drilling the Wolfcamp are using oil-based muds.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Oh, one last question. So you believe the 3.5-inch tubing can take close to like 1 million metric tons of CO2 a year?
Yes, I do.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Bloom, did you have any questions, just to make sure we catch you as well?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Awesome. Mr. Tremaine.
Mr. Chair, if I could interject here real quick. We kind of left off with the question about the Poisson ratio, and I understand that Commissioner Mpoma responded there. So if the commission's satisfied with the answer on the record, we don't have to come back. I can make Mr. Governor-Michael available to address any technical questions that they had about that or the reason for the question on direct. But it sounded as if the commission was satisfied. So if my read of that is correct, then I think we can obviate the need to have the witness come back.
Dr. Mpoma, did that answer your question?
Yeah, because all these are all estimations until they drill the well and get the call and go to the lab and do the measurement. But I think 0.3, 0.25 is still within the normal range for Poisson's ratio. Oh, okay.
Okay. Excellent. Ms. Hardy.
Then I have no further questions for Mr. Ragsdale.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Ragsdale, we may go. Anyone else, Ms. Hardy?
Nothing further from Targa. Thank you.
Okay. Excellent. Should we take a quick 10-minute break? Yeah, let's take a 10-minute break and then we can start with the OCD.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. It's bad enough. It's, what'd you say? You have nothing to complain about. Okay, let's get back on record here. We had just, we're still on case number 24594. Targa finished with all of its witnesses, so now we're turning it over to the NMOCD. Ms. Senegan.
Good afternoon. I would like to call our only witness, Mr. Millian Gabriel-Michael, to the stand.
Excellent.
Swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under penalty of perjury.
I do.
Who is smart?
Good afternoon. Could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Millian Gabriel-Michael.
Where do you work?
I work for the Energy, Mineral, and Natural Resources Department as part of a group responsible for the oversight of the underground injection control.
What is your position?
The Petroleum Specialist Advanced for the Underground Injection Control Group.
What are the job responsibilities of your position?
I review technical aspects of UIC permits, provide recommendations to district offices regarding UIC wells, and provide input for the process design and rulemaking.
Have you ever testified before the Oil Conservation Commission before?
Yes, I have.
Have you been recognized as an expert in the field of petroleum engineering and underground injection by the commission before?
Yes, I have.
Have you prepared a resume for this hearing?
Yes, it is Exhibits 2.
Could you please summarize your educational background, training, and experience for the commission?
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Petroleum Engineering degree from the Southern Alberta Polytechnic in Canada. And also I have 12 years of working for the exploration and production companies as well as regulatory agencies. I work for Shell International in Canada, ARC Resources, and also I work for the Alberta Energy Regulator, which is an equivalent organization to OCD, for 3 years. And then for the last 2 years, I've been working as a UIC engineer with the state of New Mexico Underground Injection Control Group.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 2.
Any objections?
No objection.
He is so entered.
I also would like to move for the admission of Mr. Gabriel-Michael as an expert in the field of petroleum engineering, underground injection control, and acid gas injection wells.
Any objections?
No objection.
Okay, he is entered.
Which standard do you apply when you evaluate a Class 2 underground injection control well to be approved?
The standards applies the prevent waste, protect corroborative rights, protect public health and the environment, including the underground source of drinking water.
Have you reviewed the Copperhead acid gas injection number 1 application?
Yes, I have.
And what is your opinion of the application?
Targa's application to inject the treated acid gas into the Devonian Formation via Copperhead AGI number 1 well is designed to ensure the safe and an effective injection. And then the acquisition of tailored 3D seismic data of the injection project area addresses concern regarding presence any faults that could impact by injection pressure and then lead to induced seismicity. Additionally, Targa's proposed managed pressure drilling will significantly reduce the likelihood of the under-over drilling balances that may occur.
Were there any concerns that you had with the application and the proposed location and depth of the proposed AGI well?
Yes, Targa has proposed a maximum injection rate of 26 million cubic foot per day. OCD will reassess this maximum injection rate once Targa completes the step rate test, which will be a condition of approval outlined in Exhibit 1. Additionally, Targa plans to install the bottom hole pressure and temperature gauge via the fiber optic line. OCD would like we would like to ensure that when it goes through the master valves that it provides a complete seal or it doesn't impair a complete seal of the well.
You mentioned conditions of approval. Do you have an exhibit listing those conditions?
Yes, it's Exhibit 1.
Has the commission seen this exhibit or something similar to this exhibit before?
Yes, it has.
Who was this exhibit prepared by?
By OCD UIC group, which I'm part of.
To the best of your knowledge, is this exhibit a true and accurate representation of OCD's updated recommendations for AGI conditions of approval?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 1.
Any objections?
No objection.
It so will be admitted.
Did you change this exhibit relative to any prior versions provided to the commission in earlier AGI cases?
Yes, we did.
And why did you change this exhibit?
We added item 12 and then item 18 and the exhibits 1. Item 12 was added to make sure all seismic events are recorded with seismic monitoring station. And item 18 was added to make sure that redundant well is constructed in a timely manner.
Did you discuss these changes with Targa?
Yes, we did.
Have OCD and Targa agreed to the conditions that ensure compliance with the standards you previously mentioned?
There is an overall agreement, and OCD expects Targa to address the concern mentioned earlier. OCD reserves the right to reassess the proposed maximum injection rate after the completion of the step rate test on the well. Additionally, the integration of the fiber optic line into the well construction must be done in a way that it doesn't impede the complete seal of the well to prevent any escape of the injectate.
So you would agree that Targa agreed to comply with the conditions listed in the conditions of Exhibit 1, excuse me.
Yes.
Could you please summarize the conditions for the commission?
The conditions outlined in Exhibit 1 represent OCD standard approval criteria for AGI wells. These conditions exceed the standard approval requirements for underground injection wells due to the specific nature of the injectate, namely treated acid gas. AGI wells must be constructed using corrosion-resistant alloy strings and then include subsurface safety valves and then a packer fluid that contains corrosion inhibitors and biocide additives. OCD has added 2 items to the previously approved AGI condition of approval admitted by the commission. Like I mentioned before, these items are item 12 and then 18 in the OCD Exhibit 1. The addition item 12 in the OCD Exhibit 1 is necessitated by the fact that deep wells subject to such high pressure could be subjected to induced seismicity. And then having seismic monitoring stations would provide OCD with necessary data to take appropriate seismic prevention protocol in a timely manner. Item 18 was added to ensure that limited time required to initiate the completion of the second well to have available redundant well in case the primary well is down for various reasons.
I would like to ask some questions now in response to Targa's witnesses. Are there any other clarifications that you feel are necessary after reviewing Targa's application and cement top methodology?
Well, with the cement top methodology, it just we would like to ensure that the 20-inch surface casing, both the, like you mentioned earlier, CBL and then visual inspection are coupled, especially in the and that the 20-inch CBL is exempted, but the visual inspection should be coupled with a cement report that includes density of the cement. Also, as I mentioned, at the 1250 depth, still the cement type is described as a C type. And then as the Targa expert testified earlier, at this depth, the temperature could be about 180 degrees, which exceeds the 170 degrees, which makes the C type not suitable. So OCD would like Targa to utilize the cement type H and above.
Are there any other clarifications that you feel are necessary about strength regression?
Yes. So the cement strength retrogression, which is especially at the bottom, there might be, I think the gentleman already addressed it, but OCD would like to make sure that at about 230 degrees, there is going to be a degradation of the cement and then creation of permeability. So OCD would require you to add additives like the silica flour that would prevent the degradation.
Are there any other clarifications you wish to address about Poisson's ratio?
Yes, Dr. Bloom kind of touched it, but we would like to make sure that whether it is a limestone or a sandstone, or it's a mix that triggered you to utilize the 0.3. I mean, usually 0.27 is for limestone, which is mostly the industry accepted standard. And then 0.33 is for sandstone. But you pick what was the ratio that you picked is 0.3? Was it 0.3?
That's correct.
Yes, 0.3. So we would like you to characterize the exact nature of that formation. Is it a mix between the two that triggered you to put the 0.3? Because those simple ratios could make a lot of difference in the simulation in the model.
Are there any other clarifications you wish to address about the fracture gradient comparison?
We would like to ask Targa, they did use the Eaton's formula for theoretical calculation of fracture gradient. Of course, that will be determined by the step rate test, which is an empirical data. But we would like to know, though, your Eaton's fracture gradient, which was utilized for the simulation model, if you have compared it to any other AGI wells in the past, and then what is the value discrepancy between Eaton's driven fracture gradient and then step rate test driven fracture gradient.
Do you have any concerns about the redundant well being on the Delaware Mountain Group?
Yes, that came today. When we were evaluating the corporate AGI number 1, the Devonian well, we were not aware Targa's intent that they will drill the redundant well in the DMG. So the intermediate 2, which covers the DMG zone, which is the Cherry, the Bell, those are active producing zones. And OCD would like that you utilize corrosion resistant cement for that part. Also, when you built your, I'm talking about for AGI number 1, the way it's designed right now, there is no corrosion resistant cement in there. Also, we highly recommend if you could consider corrosion resistant alloys for that part as well, if you really go ahead with your DMG redundant well.
In your opinion, will these conditions and the items that you addressed in your testimony provide adequate assurance that the proposed well will not cause waste or harm correlative rights?
Yes, given our concerns are addressed.
In your opinion, will these conditions and items addressed in your testimony protect public health and the environment, including underground sources of drinking water?
Yes.
Those are all of the questions that I had for Mr. Gabriel-Michael.
Okay, Ms. Hardy.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, did you have any questions?
No questions.
Yes.
Yes, I have one question for the witness. The concerns that you cited, sir, with respect to the Class H concrete, the poison ratio, whether it's a 0.27 or 0.33, depending on the type of stone we're looking at, and also your concerns about the DMG redundant well. Are you advocating those concerns be incorporated into what is now Exhibit 1 as permit conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Are they currently part of Exhibit 1?
No, they're not, but they should be incorporated.
Okay.
Those concerns should be addressed.
Okay.
If I may, Counselor, I think the division would advocate, or I would advocate for the division that based on the record today, that we make sure that those clarifications made in the record during all of the direct testimony, that my understanding is all of the parties are agreeing to would be added into the terms of the order. So rather than adding them to the exhibit, I think the record's adequate to include those as requirements and incorporate in the order.
Thank you, Mr. Tremaine. So I guess if the commission were to approve the application, the parties would submit a new proposed form of order with those conditions incorporated therein?
That would be my recommendation rather than resubmitting exhibits.
Right, because you don't want me to write it.
Excellent. Commissioner Bloom, did you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Can this witness step down? Everybody okay with that?
Yes, thank you.
You're still muted.
Anything more or further from either party before the commission deliberate?
Not from Targa.
No.
All right. Commissioners, if you have any deliberations you wish to, of course, we could always go into closed session, but understand that's not the wish of the commission. So, or would you like council to state a motion at this point?
Commissioner Bloom, Commissioner Mpoma?
Yeah, so I think if you look at the application, very detailed, and I'm very happy with regards to how NMOCD is handling this, especially the rate that they are proposing, and then the approach. You know, after the step-rate test, NMOCD, they have the right, they reserve the right to go back and say, no, you cannot have the 26. So I think that addresses most of my concerns. But essentially, the application looks great, and I do not have any concerns, you know, and I do support this.
Okay. Commissioner Bloom, do you have any further comment?
No, I concur with Dr. Mpoma and would move to approve this.
All right. So then based upon the sentiments of the commission, will the commission entertain a motion to approve the application subject to the permit conditions as proposed by the department in Exhibit 1 to be supplemented by the testimony of the department witness today?
I so move.
I second.
Okay, and let me take a roll call vote. Mr. Chair?
I agree.
Okay, Dr. Mpoma?
Approve.
Mr. Bloom?
Approve.
All right, the application is so granted. Anything further from the parties on that?
No, thank you very much for your time today.
Oh, that's okay.
No, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for your presentations, very professional, and they are very much appreciated.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair, I believe that,
We've got our next point on our list is any pending litigation. Mr. Rubin.
well, I can give you the inevitable Atencio lawsuit update. The motion for the petition for an interlocutory appeal was granted. So the court is now in the realm of the Court of Appeals.
Okay.
They will decide the legal issues as presented in our motion to dismiss, which we joined in with the other defendants. The legislative defendants had a different motion, but our executive co-defendants, which were Emnerd, NMED, and their cabinet secretaries. So I would anticipate at least 6 months for the Court of Appeals to chew on this. And then in the meantime, we are mercifully relieved of our duties to respond to anything else. In the district court level, everything has stayed.
Great.
Yes.
Awesome.
So that's all I have at this time.
Thank you for the update. And our next point this afternoon is any other business that anyone may have. I do have one point. We had discussed last meeting that in October, I would be out of the country the week that the meeting is held. I believe we did, we looked at all schedules, and Sheila, it was October the 9th, correct, that it worked out?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. So our October hearing is going to be held on October the 9th for that reason. So any other issues that anybody else may have?
The next meeting is September 19th, and we do have the long hearing also coming up. So
Right.
Are we going to have 2 meetings in a month?
I was wondering that. Sheila, is it true? I understood as we discussed before that the hearing on Empire and Goodnight is scheduled for the 23rd?
Yes,
And-
that's right, the 23rd through the 27th.
Okay, and so to have a meeting on September 19th in addition to that, is that something we can consolidate with the hearing with that date or no?
Right now, the only thing on the September 19th docket would be the presentation of a notice of hearing for the rulemaking. That was heard today.
We can.
Okay, well, certainly, commissioners, nothing set in stone yet as to when you wish to meet. Hopefully that notice on on the issue we just heard this morning, we might be able to deal with that rather quickly, and we could just have one one meeting on beginning on the date of the hearing. Is that, Commissioner? I mean, I think we should probably pin that down now.
That works for me. Commissioner Bloom?
So, Mr. Rubin, are you saying that we would forego meeting on the 19th and instead bring up the 19th's business on the 23rd?
Yes, Commissioner Bloom, that is my suggestion, just as a.
I think that would make sense. Yeah, save people some time and driving.
Commissioner
Okay.
Poma?
Oh, I second that.
All right then. Okay, so
Okay.
Mr. Chair, you'll make sure that happens with.
Yes.
Okay.
So Sheila, can we just document that the 19th hearing, since we only have the one topic, we'll hear it on the 23rd at the beginning before we start with the case.
Okay.
Excellent. Any other business? Any other issues?
Push
Okay,
it out
so
to 5 o'clock, guys.
I beg your pardon?
We could push it out to 5 o'clock.
Is that what you want? You want us to push it out to 5?
No, we can wrap it up. Let's wrap it up.
Yes,
Okay.
we do not need a motion to adjourn.
So just as was mentioned, our next meeting is going to be on the 23rd, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all.